the ability to walk away during a negotiation is exactly what the high ticket clients are looking for without telling that they're looking for. They want, it's actually the term for it's called top grading. And there's a book you could read, highly recommend it. The A players don't have to work for money, yet they make all the money. They make the majority of the money. And I've started analyzing that. If I really wanted to make the big bucks, because a lot of the clients that I land, some of my best clients aren't even on Upwork.
Mike, yeah, it's nice to have you here, man.
Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So you have quite an interesting background.
I'm sure how much you already know about it.
Yeah, I checked out a little bit. You're on social media and saw that you have published a few books. You're quite active on Facebook, and you've done quite interesting things. So why don't you maybe start with how did you get into Upwork from being potentially from I guess, like, yeah, how did your Upwork journey begin?
Okay. I was in China. I was teaching English in China, and the economical exchange rate, it just wasn't enough for me to transition back to the West, to come back home, because I had no support network. Meanwhile, another obstacle I faced, because my marketing business was not the first one. I actually started off with sort of attempting a restaurant, a tea business. I tried several others that failed, but for key reasons pertaining to Chinese bureaucracy. In China, you have to give, in order to even be considered the owner of your own business, you have to give up 51% at least to a Chinese national.
Mm-hmm.
And while I understand that that's their country, it just wasn't, I wasn't about to give 51% of something that I would have to work day in, day out to build while they could sit back. And that has nothing to do with nationality. That's just a matter of principle. It's like, okay, if I'm going to give 51% of my company, at least put 51% effort in. With that in mind, by the way, as a caveat, that might change per province. In my province, it was like that. I don't know if that was around the whole country. So there was that. I tried starting a few businesses, and I just initially, because of that the legalities behind that, I had to close them down, even though they were actually pretty successful. One was a restaurant starting off selling American food. I started off small, selling on the street. That didn't work. Well, they liked the food, but I had to close down. Second was a tea business that I wanted to sell online internationally, perhaps get into distributors. And China is a wonderful place. It's one of the key places in the world for tea.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking maybe I can create my own brand of tea and then sell that internationally, online. And yeah, I didn't mind paying attention. That's fine. But I still had to close it down because of the same or similar reasons. I don't remember every detail, but and then I thought, okay, well, because of my nationality, the laws, how can I get out of this trap? Because I wanted to return to the West. I wanted to return to Europe. I wanted to return to America. I wanted to keep my journey going around the world at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, as an English teacher, while I may have been arguably upper middle class in China, around the world, you're barely making minimum wage, depending on which country you're in. I had a nice apartment supplied to me. Well, nice is arguable. I had an apartment that I could live in. I had an apartment that was supplied to me, and the income was enough to survive and make a nice little living in China, but it was not enough to travel. It was not enough to go back home if I really wanted to. And without parents waiting for me, without any sort of really any sort of support network that would catch me if I needed to immediately leave China, I needed to think of something. So I thought, okay, start an online business in a way that was outside of the Chinese firewall. And I thought to myself, okay, well, and I'm actually coming from prior military, so I had the GI Bill. The GI Bill pays for your college education. I had used part of it to fund an English education in order to become an English teacher, to get into China, to be a qualified teacher teaching kids. But I still had a lot left in my account. So I used that to fund a marketing degree at Full Sail University. And I thought, thinking extremely long term, which is actually finally beginning to actualize now, an education in physics. So I thought I could combine an education in marketing with an education in physics to develop products with my knowledge of physics while selling them online with my knowledge of marketing, which is actually where we're at right now. We're at my at-home engineering lab in my garage. But with that being said, I had to get out of China while making money that was worth more than the Chinese renminbi or the Chinese yuan, and figure out how to do this without sacrificing 51%, and to somebody else at least, and that's the bare minimum you have to sacrifice, plus 51%, plus the taxes, plus everything else you have to pay. And I thought, okay, well, build the business outside of China, register it outside of China as an American, pay American taxes, and then make American money and get out that way. Be able to afford your method on. That's what got me started. From there, I realized that marketing itself is so universally applicable in so many different industries in so many different ways. There's so much you can do with it. Way more than just, hey, set up a fake ad of standing behind in front of a Lamborghini, a fake Lamborghini that I probably rented or something. Be like, hey, you want more customers or something? You can do so much more. You can actually understand, when you understand consumer psychology, you can apply that to virtually anything and make, the potential that you can make is infinite. So that's what got me started.
What did you do in China? How you ended up there?
I was completely broken, homeless as a veteran, due to family dysfunction. I focused entirely on, I got out of the military. I left home to begin with to join the military, partially to get away from family dysfunction. Came back home after 4 years in the military, 2 deployments in the Middle East, realized nothing had changed. And a bad family situation happened that led me to trusting the wrong person, which then led to me being homeless on the street. But I still had my college benefits. So I focused entirely on college while homeless. And I asked my professor, all of my professors, hey, if you have any job openings, if you know of any possible way I can get off the streets, let me know, right? And I was so focused on my course. I had nothing else to focus on. I was homeless. Nothing else to focus on but college. I scored so well in key areas that my Chinese professor, which was the language that I chose, said, hey, you're the top student in the class. There's a private entrepreneurial venture in Xi'an, the center of the country, that I know people in, and maybe I can network. If I pull a few strings, I can get you a job there. Now, it was very awkward because I'm from American military. It's like, could that lead to a political problem? And yeah, it could. So we actually ended up having to hide the fact that I was military for several years, former military for several years, especially what I did in the military. And then that's how I got started in China. And then from there became an online freelancer. And then from there expanded in different ways. All
right. So now you're in China, you're trying to figure out how the hell do I get out of here, right? I want to go back to America. I want to go back to my home. Now, you said you have degree in physics and marketing now, and you tried different businesses that not necessarily work for what you needed. And what is that when you discovered Upwork?
I started my freelancing business. I think before Upwork became a big thing. I was during the Elance era, and then Upwork, I think, bought out Elance, and then you had to transfer over everything.
Yes.
So back in that day, I was an Elancer.
Okay. Yeah. It was Elance and Odesk and everything before that, right? I remember those times. Okay. So now, what you are on Elance, and that's how you started. That's how you
Yes.
Tell me about the journey. How was it back then?
I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I tried to present myself as something more than what I was. I didn't understand, even though I was studying it and I was doing well academically. Academics is one thing, the real world is quite a different other. And I had to. It was really focused because this was the only way I could see myself getting out of China. Um, I had to stay up extra hours, stalking people's profiles, my ideal clients, but by people's profiles, I mean stalking my ideal clients' profiles, really jumping into their minds, trying to understand what it is that they see when they look at my profile. And I started small. So even though I was working toward a degree at the time, and by the way, as a correction, I do not have a degree in physics. I'm studying for one now.
Ah, okay.
Just to be very clear on that. But anyway, I have a degree in marketing, and I'm currently studying for a degree in physics. But yeah, so I started small, and I struggled at first with understanding how to present myself online, and I tried a multitude of different ways. I tried writing my profile in different ways. I tried to seem cooler than I really was. I tried to seem smarter than I really was. I tried everything that came to conscious mind. And then I just stopped thinking about myself in a sort of neurotic way and started simply thinking about the client, just simply thinking about the customer. What are they looking for? What do they see that I don't see when I apply to a job?
Mm-hmm.
Or when they're looking through profiles, what are they reading? What is my competition doing? How is that affecting their perception? If they post a job and they get, 50 responses and they're all cookie cutter, they're all the same, or they just didn't, they may not, even if they're not cookie cutter, what if they just didn't really put much thought into the client? Like for example, before I even applied to a job, at this point, I'm getting 4 to 6 job invites per day. But at the time, I had to build up my profile. I had to build up the amount of reviews. I had to build up my portfolio. I had to put myself out there. I had to build the foundations of my brand first for people to back research and say, you know what, this guy seems like this, but he's actually extremely competent and blah, blah, blah. So I had to efficiently plan, not just simply what they saw, but also what they researched and how. Example, right at the beginning of this call, you said that you looked into me beforehand, and you said you followed me, at least you looked into me on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And that got a little weird face out of mine. I put a lot of thought into it, not just simply on social media. Like for example, I don't just post about marketing. As a matter of fact, I rarely post about marketing, even though I'm making 6 figures now as a marketing strategist. What I'm doing is I realize that and I wouldn't recommend this for everyone, where I analyze my own strengths and weaknesses and understanding and empathizing with my target audience, those that were most likely to hire me for the long term, those that I would be the best culture fit for. I realized that they wanted to see the more authentic me. They're already the people who have the big bucks. They're full-fledged entrepreneurs. Maybe they already exited a couple businesses in their past. They may not be world famous like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, but they know their stuff and they've been there and done that. They've got budgets. They've got private networks of investors, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to speak to those people, don't bullshit them. Don't insult their intelligence. Present to them as you are, and give them something that they haven't seen before. And really, in a field like marketing, authenticity, a genuine authenticity, is in and of itself a commodity. So all they have to do is look at my resume, either digital or physical one, and say, okay, he's clearly very experienced in marketing, but who is he really? Right? Anybody can put anything on a not a degree. Anybody can put anything on a resume, or you can even puff up your portfolio to a certain extent, because I've seen that happen as well. People claiming that they did things that they didn't actually do. And it's very hard to verify that unless you really, really do your homework when you're interviewing them. Because now I'm hiring people for my own business. And I'm now in the client's point of view experientially. And now I'm hiring freelancers and I'm seeing where the bullshit is. Like, hey, you didn't know I was a freelancer for 8 years doing the same exact thing. So
This podcast, whether I mention it or not, is brought to you by Proposally. It's brought to you because first, I created Proposally for freelancers just like you who struggle sending winning proposals on Upwork, and really for everyone else who just wants to send Upwork proposals faster. I collaborated with top-selling expert Upworkers to create a growing library of effective and proven Upwork templates. You can use these templates when you apply for jobs on Upwork. Now you can send proposals your clients will love reading and significantly increase your chances of getting hired. And even better, you can do this in a fraction of time. No more digging into your notepad or searching your computer for your best performing cover letter templates. Proposally is built into Upwork's proposal flow. It fills in the blank cover letter section and also screening questions if there are any during your application process. So it's really super easy and intuitive to use. Second, well, I use this tool every day for my own freelance business and it saves me nearly 6 hours per week. I can use this newfound time to improve my business in other ways or make additional income if I want to. That's what I call effective proposals. Quick warning guys, never ever send cookie cutter proposals on Upwork. When you use our expert templates, always add a level of personalization and fill in all the blanks. You definitely don't want to be a freelancer who sends out canned proposal templates and comes across as someone who didn't read the job description and ultimately annoys your clients. Now, if this sounds like a tool you want to use, go to propose.ly/Tom and get 10% off your yearly subscription today. Yeah, because people really want to connect with real human beings, right? As you said, like you can do a lot of things to make a great intro, like a great profile description, put a really nice portfolio together, write your cover letters very nicely and all of that. But like end of the day, there is going to be that target audience and they will want to connect with the real human beings, right? Like if it's not a small, quick $5 or I don't know, even $500 job, they're looking for someone who can, potentially deliver multiple figure job. They want to know it's a good fit, right? And if it's a longer term project or they're hiring someone to add value for their business, if they're looking to invest in someone, obviously they want to, they want to hire a human being, a personality.
Yes. And not just that, it's okay, what elements of my of being a human being is it that I signal? Like for example, as a CEO of any given company in any industry, if I'm looking for someone online to hire, if I want to determine that you are an expert in your field, I'll just look at your resume. But if I want to see, okay, is this person smart? Is this person, amount of different variables? But more than just simply that, it's very counterintuitive. If we're all human, and we all have limits to what we can do, if we're all liable to make mistakes at some point, then I base my social media strategy on whether or not I can be forgiven for a mistake that I will inevitably make sometime in the future with a client. So it's actually very counterintuitive. I go into my own personal branding strategy, at least in the context of marketing, because now I'm building it up for my science and engineering firm. But throughout this, up until this point, what I wanted to do was deliberate psychographic targeting, knowing full well that I would offend some people, I would turn some people off. Some people might think, oh, Mike's a X, Y, and Z, I don't like him. All that tells me is that they're not a culture fit, which then ties into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is the ability to walk away from clients is actually counterintuitive, one of the most powerful things that sub-communicates just how valuable and skillful you actually are, because you can the third dimension to that would be, okay, we see who he is on social media, we see, or at least the more authentic him, we see who he is in his resume, we see his portfolio, okay, he's clearly a whiz in X, Y, and Z fields. But what is, if I were to come to him with a deal at the negotiating table, speaking figuratively, how does he respond? How does he react to certain situations that would imply how well in demand he is? And because if I desire him, other people must, unless I'm mistaken. So it's actually kind of like a counterintuitive. It's like success begets success, in the sense that when I started on Elance doing really, really busy work. You know, hey, I'll edit an article here, I'll publish an article there, building up a repertoire of 5-star reviews. Mm-hmm. But I kept my day job as a teacher, and I kept my cost of living so low that the GI Bill income that I had coming in, I just pocketed all of that. What that did was create an emergency savings mode, so that during the inevitable dry periods of whenever, you know, maybe it's tax season and they're not, you know, hiring goes down a little bit, the rate of people hiring, or, you know, all markets fluctuate. If I am presented with not bad deals, but just not ideal clients, maybe we're culture fit, maybe we're not, maybe we could work together, maybe I like them, but I know that if I need the money now for whatever it is that I sign up for, but I'm not actually a true believer in their brand, I don't really care that much personally. If I'm doing a job rather than actually being a believer in their mission, so to speak, if I even know what their mission is, have they even figured that out? Because every client's different. If, without even me having to say it, if I can sub-communicate that I can walk away at any time and go 3, 4, 5 months without any clients at all because I saved that money up, that allows me in and of itself to charge higher rates and to whittle down my clients. Not so much quantity where you like, there's some freelancers, they have like 20, 30 clients and they drive themselves insane. I tried doing that once in the beginning and it burns you out. Instead of having 20 to 30, I would say mid to lower ticket clients, to have just simply 2 to 4 high ticket clients that you really devote a lot of your emotions to, a lot of you do your absolute best work in, and you build a long-term relationship with. You cannot get to them, even if you build this huge profile, you have a blown up presence, and you've got social media followers like I do. And I don't even have that many, but I have enough to prove that I have an authentic presence, and I know how to build a following through the demonstration of example. Even if you have all of these things, there's nothing quite like being able to say, you know what, I kind of don't like you. I don't like the culture here, the way it's set up, I'm going to wait for the next one. Mm-hmm. And that is actually the ability to walk away during a negotiation is exactly what the high ticket clients are looking for without telling that they're looking for. They want, it's actually the term for it's called top grading. And there's a book you could read, highly recommend it. The A players don't have to work for money, yet they make all the money. Yeah. They make the majority of the money. And I've started analyzing that. If I really wanted to make the big bucks, because a lot of the clients that I land, some of my best clients aren't even on Upwork. Now, that's not to say that I cheat Upwork out of the client. No, I follow the terms of service. If I meet them on Upwork, we contract through Upwork. But Upwork's not my only method of securing clients.
Of course.
Upwork, LinkedIn, and paid advertising every once in a while. I think in that order. I get the highest quantity of clients through Upwork, and I get the highest quality clients through LinkedIn. And even though I haven't reached out once to, so there's some very high ticket people. There's Fortune 500 companies on Upwork. If I wanted to do some experimentation, I might throw some paid ads out there, but I do it rarely because I don't have to. With the combination of Upwork and LinkedIn, my hands are full, and I could just rinse and repeat that to scale. I could have lots of clients without needing to ever pay a single dime in ads. And you do that through that very methodology. You have an authentic who you are presence, not, hey, I'm posting generic inspirational business quotes. This is who I really am. This is how I really think. This is the culture that I would be best in. So that when I inevitably make a mistake, when I am hired, it's like, hey, no, we're connected on a personal level, on a psychographic level, that it leads to, hey, everybody makes mistakes, and that's cool. That's part of the culture. And that leads to the longest term relationships. Whereas if I try to pretend that I was somebody that I wasn't, and I get hired on that premise, and I do something that's out of their assumptions about my character, that leads to an immediate firing, essentially, because I'm not a culture fit. And it's actually not, it's just as much me filtering them as they are filtering me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the cultural fit is a big thing. I have found that so many times, and as you said, like being able to walk away from clients if there isn't like a good cultural fit is a huge thing, because like you can see the money, you can see the numbers, right? Like a thousands for the job and everything. But like, dude, if that person or the company on the other end is not a good cultural fit for yourself, you're just gonna have a nightmare working for that. And there is no money in the world that can actually make it better for you. So that screening clients and being able to walk away from clients is it's a big thing. And but you have to have that mindset to be able to walk away from your clients, right? And you already mentioned a few things that, like for example, saving up. Making sure that you're not like living feast and famine, and you're not really like spending all the money you're making, like, so you have enough there's enough buffer to take you through those periods when you maybe don't have new work continuously coming in. And also I think what I have found is that it's always great if you have a full pipeline. At least for me, it gave me safety. I felt like there is, I continuously, like, I'm like sending proposals every single day, like even if I have a lot of work, because I know that there's going to be time when, it might be a little bit of dry period, but if I have like a ton of leads coming in, to most I say no, right? Because I'm looking for the good cultural fit. I'm looking for the project that I want to work with. And like, right. If there is that pipeline, and if there is a safety net behind it, that decision to say no to jobs becomes way easier.
And that has a ton of indirect consequences, right? Like psychophysiological consequences on your life. It's like you can relax, you can you can breathe and say, you know what? No, I don't have to worry about how we're going to get groceries next week. And that affects everything. That affects relationships. You're at the top of your own respective dominance hierarchy, and that affects everything in your life.
Yeah, it is absolutely important. So tell me a bit more how specifically you approach Upwork and like generating leads. Do you have a system, or how? Yes. Like, how do you interested? How do you do that?
Yes, I do, and I've changed the system with experimentation over time, but I most certainly have an onboarding system. And actually I wrote down on one of my whiteboards here, because I thought you were going to ask about it. So when I was newer at this, my initial thought was, even if I was in a good state, even if I had money and it wasn't feast or famine, my initial thought was land him immediately. Try to get him to land on that call, that first initial call, get him in. No, because even if I wasn't desperate, you might subcommunicate desperation. That's one, and that affects how they treat you from the door. Even if you do end up getting hired. And two, even if you do subcommunicate desperation that you don't even mean to, and they don't even pick it up. Like, they just think, yeah, we also wanted to hire on the call. So that's happened several times where I've literally been hired on the spot, and I started work that day because they were desperate. They needed the human capital to meet some sort of deadline, whatever may be the case on their end. It's actually very much like real human relationships. Like, take it away from business in general. Before I go into the actual specifics of what I do in Upwork, first, before one even thinks about digital marketing, let's take a second to think, to just reflect just a second on human relationships itself. If you have a beautiful woman that you're really attracted to, or whatever the person, because I'm sure not everybody in the audience as this video is heterosexual, just whatever you're attracted to, do you try to marry them on the moment you meet them? Or do you take them on a few dates at the very least first? Do you try to get to know them? Do they try to get to know you? So my process involves deliberately, even if I could sense that they're willing to hire me right then and there on the spot, to delay that for both of our sakes, because I don't want to rush into any clients that are actually toxic for me. They think less of me, and they don't respect my craft. They don't. They just want somebody to fill a position or a quota of some kind, and they think that, okay, once we seal a deal, that they own me as a person, and I need to, be on back. It's like, or what if I need a 3-hour buffer in between messaging? Because some people, they send a message, they want a response time in 20 minutes or less. Others are like, hey, you can respond to me tomorrow. Others are like, oh yeah, I forgot I sent you a message at all. Like, it depends. And that's when we get back into the culture fitting. So just for the sake of culture fitting alone, I won't contract people anymore on the first call deliberately. People, famous marketers like Sam Ovens. I'm not sure. Have you ever heard of Sam Ovens?
I know Sam. I took one of his first courses.
I did as well. I did his up-level course. He said in his, and by the way, I did learn quite a bit from him in his course. But there's something, I didn't agree with everything he said though. Well, yes, and a lot of times you could land them right then and there on that call, on that first initial call. I don't anymore. And for those specific reasons, I want to make sure that I'm a fit for them. I want to make sure they're a fit for me. I want to make sure that if we do this, that it's long-term, serious thing, that values exchanged between both parties out of not only respect for them, but respect to myself. So I will have the intro call. I'll send out the proposal. And I'm actually about to start doing what you're doing, to start sending out, because I don't send out proposals. I very rarely do I send out proposals anymore. I get about 4 to 6 job invites per day, if not every other day. Mm-hmm. And I might respond to the invite, but I'm not actually actively looking at my feed and sending up, and I need to do that. That's actually, I don't mean to be cocky, that I need to do that. It's a good thing. I should be doing that. But regardless, I send out a response. It might be a proposal. It might be to accept their invite. We have the initial intro call. We schedule it. During that call, I need to keep them talking. The more that I speak, like the way that I'm speaking during this very podcast is not the way that I would speak during a sales call. Mm-hmm. I have learned to throw my ego out the door. It's not about me. It's about them. What is their problem? I'm listening. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I'll have notes. I will have notes either on screen, I'll have a notepad, or I'll have notes in my hand, piece of paper in my hand. And it's zip, shut up, and just simply ask the question. They're the patient, you're the doctor. You're trying to figure out the symptoms to their disease. Keep them talking, and it usually start off with a general introduction about their company, their mission. And if they don't, I'll ask them, hey, what is the mission of the company? Have you figured that out yet? And I'm testing for all these sorts of things, not only what they say, but what they're not saying as well, and how. And it's very difficult to communicate everything in this one podcast, but we'll have the intro call, and no matter how it goes, I don't care if they are like, shut up and take my money, and they want to hire me right then and there. I don't. And experience has taught me this. I don't take them on the first call. I say, okay, I've gotten to know your business a little bit. Everything's much more clear now, but here's where I think I can deliver the value to you. However, let's schedule another call for next Monday, or or maybe it could be tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. Just let's schedule another call at your earliest convenience, mm-hmm. so that I can demonstrate to you live on the call. Here's what my reporting is going to be like. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm going to do for you, like a demo, like demo style. And the reason why I do that is not even for the second call. It's not even for culture fitting. It's for the setting of their expectations. This is how I prevent myself from getting lost in a ton of low-level busy work that I start off with on elance.com. I maintained my position of authority as the thinker, as the presenter, hey, you have a team that you want me to manage for the project that we're managing, or I have my own team, my own network of freelancers that I've been working with for years. Whatever the client prefers, that's fine. I don't really care who it is that I'm managing, but I am the manager. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is my role. Every single, we're going to have, cadence calls, is what we call them, regular calls, reporting the results. And yes, there might be somebody else writing the article. Yes, there might be somebody else doing the graphic designing. Could I? Sure, I could, like the leader of a line of chefs. If a chef doesn't show up to work that day, yeah, I can jump on the fryer and do something really quick to make sure that the customer gets their food. But I want to make sure that I don't get lost in the busy work and the fervor of what they need done, and I maintain a position of authority and control so that I can maximize my own income while at the same time minimize my own stress levels. And this is, not only do they respect that, they love it. That's exactly, because if all of a sudden the average freelancer might think, oh yeah, if I do a lot of busy work and I'm delivering more value. Yes, but there's also human psychology to take into consideration. That should only be done by, like, for example, if we were, all right, have you ever seen the TV show Suits?
I have.
Harvey Specter and Mike, right? All the assistants are you, not you specifically, but speaking to any freelancer out there who wants to, take it to the next step, they want to get the access to high level clients, and they want to have that position of authority. It's not even, it's well beyond just simply what you write in your profile, what you have in your portfolio. It's how you carry yourself and how you conduct yourself throughout the proceedings with each prospective client. It's, yeah, I think one's initial thought might be, hey, if I do a whole ton of busy work, then I am delivering more value. In one angle, yes, and another angle, no. It's also what they think of you, like, hey, don't you have assistants? Don't you have people? Or why don't you more effectively managing the team to get this done for you, so that, because anybody can hire a $5 per hour person from the Philippines or Ukraine or pick a random country. If I'm paying you $60 per hour, $100 per hour plus to be a thinker, then be a thinker. Yeah. Because every single time that you do that busy work, it's nice. I get the notion, but that's not what I'm paying you for. I didn't pay you $60 per hour. I didn't pay you $100 per hour to write this article. To me, and I'm speaking as the customer, to me, that's a waste of money. I need to fire you now because you lowered yourself to do that, right? So it's actually counterintuitive. No, you want to stay away from the busy work to maintain your presence of authority, the respect of the client, and making sure that they get what they're really paying for. They want you to be the thinker. They don't want you to do the busy work a lot of times. They want you to demonstrate that you can effectively manage their project through the art and science of delegation. That's what they're hiring you for. You are the brain, so be the brain. Let the others be the apparatuses. And to make sure that I set the pace of that, how I walk them through my style, which has its weaknesses. Everybody has their own weaknesses to their style. That's what style intrinsically implicates. That it implies that whatever your strength is, you triple down on that. But whatever your strength may be, you got it. Wherever there's light, there's got to be a shadow. So wherever your shadow is, wherever you have a weakness, that's fine. Mitigate that by tripling down on your strengths, and when you zoom out, you realize, oh, that's your style. So the second call is all about walking them through a demonstration of my style. This is how I remain, and I don't say this directly, I just sub-communicate it. This is how I remain in control. This is how I am delivering value to you. Here's an Excel sheet of an actual report, and I will do it. An actual report of what I did with another client that I got permission to use. Here's a PowerPoint presentation of results, of real results that I delivered. So you're sub-communicating several things there. One, actual results, you're showing them, hey, I actually did this for this company that's a high-level corporation, or whatever may be the case. If it's not because not everybody has that to fall back on, I do. But when you're first starting out, you're not going to have that. So what results can you show? And if you haven't landed a client in order to demonstrate those results, then what experiments can you show? The results of what personally funded experiments can you show that lays the foundation of what you could do? It tells them what you could do for them should you be hired if you're at that lower level starting out. And a lot of freelancers aren't willing to do that, to invest in their own experiments, to treat themselves as a source of information, which by default makes you a thought leader, which is what gets you hired. So if I was starting out with nothing, I would say, and I have done this, even if I had to work a side job serving burgers, right? I would humble myself, serve burgers, wait tables, whatever you need to do, but get some cash on the side to invest in your own experiments, and then add those to your portfolio, and then you show them that on the call if you don't have that backing, if you're starting off at that level, which I did. Whatever it is that your top results are, or top experiments are, show them live on the second call. This is my style, this is what I'm doing, this is what you can expect from me. Here's a live demonstration, what do you think? Then shut up and let them talk. Once they talk, they can ask anything AMA style, and the moment they start to engage in the AMA style, it's AMA, meaning you're the authority. They're asking you anything, and the fact that you're able to answer these questions on the fly in the same way that I'm answering your questions right now on this call, you are clearly the authority. You know what you're talking about. You can speak clearly, authentically. You don't need to research anything. You just know it's up from here. And that secures almost, if I can get them to the second call, it's almost, I'd say 90% close, because, and then the reason why that is not because I'm so good. It's because I pre-screened them. Yeah. If we made it past the first call, then they're already interested, period. Right. And usually I only lose them on the second call if I screw up somehow. Right. So it's like, if a girl wants to go out with you on a second date, she's not doing it because she dislikes you. So it's like, if she's already going out with you on a second date, 9 times out of 10, it's because she likes you. Hey, just don't mess it up.
Absolutely. Well, I like what you're saying. Like, establishing authority is so important. It gives you all the tools you need to actually negotiate and yes, position yourself as an expert. Otherwise, coming back to that desperate, being a desperate, it's just like, if you're closing on a chat, trying to get people to hire you on the chat, which I've seen so many times, and then, or even like if people jump on a call and you don't hire them on a call, they keep messaging you like I'm pretty sure they don't realize that what we just discussed, that being desperate, no one really wants to hire desperate people, right? Being desperate shows that there's something wrong with you. Like you're either not an expert because you're not getting clients, because right, like, why would you be desperate, right? Right. So that means you don't have something, you don't have some skills, and that makes you desperate, right?
Right.
Right. Or the second is you just want to take their money without really, understanding what it is that they need, right? Right. So none of those two things really serve you. So I like idea about the second calls. I've never really done second calls. Well, I don't want to say never, but often I don't do second calls. I try to kind of like run through this in a one longer call, like the first call. But I really like the idea of doing 2 calls, because the first one is, as you said, it's just a screening call where they do all the talking, Yes. You don't really have to talk. And it's like, but I see so many people, like, they're so scared to do these calls, so scared. It's like, but dude, you don't really have to talk. They do all the talking. You have your questions written down, right? And like, let the client do the talking, and that's how you basically are interviewing them instead of they're interviewing you, because you don't want to become someone who's taking orders, because that immediately lowers your value, right? And like, how can you expect charging 50, 60, 70, 100 plus an hour if you're taking orders, right? I think at a certain hourly rate, people expect you to take ownership, as you said, right? Be a manager. That is important, but there has to be a shift in the person's, like, do you have any tips on how someone who is like struggling, or maybe like they're listening nowadays, like, oh yeah, I really need to do this, but like I'm so scared to get on these calls, like, because they might not really know what to do. Do you have any like action items, any tips that someone would do?
Oh
Maybe?
yeah, yeah. Because I may seem extroverted, but in actuality, I'm really, really introverted. I only come alive and start really speaking the way that I am now when I'm in my element, when I'm talking about something I really know very well. So if you're talking, if anyone who would follow you either now or in the future would like advice on how to speak to people, what to say, and how to get over the feelings of anxiety, I know exactly what that's like. And there's no way I didn't get to this level of knowledge without having made all of these mistakes. First, I'm saying not to do. So what I do is, I'm gonna go back to the doctor analogy. They're a patient, you're the doctor. When you go to the doctors, what is that like? You go, usually the doctor has some sort of a clipboard and he's got questions on it. And as a matter of fact, I don't mind sharing them. I don't have them on screen right now, but maybe I could send them to you after the call if you'd like. I don't care. Like that's the level of abundance that I'm in right now. That I don't really have any trade secrets. It's really just if somebody wants to know, they can just ask.
Mm-hmm.
I have a list of questions, and I always start them off with, tell me about your company. Now, usually they'll say, why don't you tell me about yourself? And they might ask you that question. So what I'll have is I will have a rehearsed answer. And by rehearsed, I don't mean that I will remember it word for word like some actor in Hollywood. I just simply mean like bullet points. I'll know what to say in general, moving from point A to point B, keeping it short, and then ask them a counter question saying, why don't you tell me about your company, blah, blah, blah. Usually, if they, the way I've structured my online presence, exactly as you said during this call, at the beginning of this call, you kind of already looked into me. So you already had a vague idea of what kind of person I was. Maybe you might have asked, hey, tell me more about yourself, just for the sake of doing it, but you already had a vague idea of who I am. That's exactly what the clients who come into the calls have. So the first step that I would recommend to the audience would be plan what people can find about you before they even get on the call. It's like it's like most battles are won before they're even fought. So what can you do? What pieces of content can you publish that when they see you in the Upwork feed, or if they see you on LinkedIn, or wherever it is that you're generating clients from, when they do research on you to determine whether or not you're even worth their time for that first intro call, when they're screening you, if by that intro call you have done your social media or media outlet reach, whatever articles that have been published about you, if you can get them published, if you can plan that effectively enough, then by the time they even get you on the first call, they're already vaguely interested. They may not have read everything about you, but they're like, okay, you're clearly somebody unique. And then that sets the tone for, okay, a lot of times, if they already have that if they've already looked into you to a certain extent, they may not even ask the question, tell me about yourself. They may not think to, because they already kind of know subconsciously, they already kind of know about you to a certain extent. And so what they're more impressed. And so they might just all of a sudden vomit out, well, do you want me to tell you about my company? Blah, blah, blah. And then, sure, why don't you tell me about your company? Right. So, but all of that happens, mastering that psychological effect of your target audience occurs before the call even begins. Mm-hmm. That's establishing your foundational personal brand before the call even begins. Now, there's that element of it. And then the second would be assuming that they haven't, always begin every call assuming that they haven't written anything about you at all. Even though consciously, yeah, they probably have. But assume that they haven't. Have a series of questions written standing by, with the first one being, tell me about your company and its mission. Help me understand your company, what it is that you're doing, what is the problem that you're solving or problems that you're solving with the company, for what psychographic audience, what demographic audience, whatever may be the case, whatever target audience, and why. tell me that first and foremost before we go anywhere else with the conversation. And then throughout the process of them telling me that, I will have a doctor style checklist. Check, okay, if they answer a question, and I'll check that off, check that off. Okay, they didn't answer this question, so I'll hold that aside. And then I'll tell them, okay, well, thanks for telling me that. Now, of course, I hope you don't mind. I'm speaking as if you're a hypothetical client. I'll say, okay, well, I would usually ask more questions, but you've actually done a fantastic job in answering the vast majority that I would have already asked you. So the questions that I have left, and you can be totally honest with them. You don't have to try to project that you're more than what you are. So you can tell them right at the beginning, I actually have a list of questions here that I'd like to ask you to understand it, to see if we're a good fit. You've answered X, Y, and Z, but here's A, B, and C that I would still like to ask you that's left. Right, in the process of answering them, asking them, you say, okay, you determine, that intro call should be enough for you to determine whether or not you like them personally. You know, this sort of vibe that you get off of them, how they answer your questions or how they don't answer your questions, what they have and haven't figured out. You sort of gauge where they are. And then you have those two things set aside to go back to your initial question for the audience. One, plan the hell out of what people can research about you. Do not leave that to chance. Even if there's something bad out there about you, make sure it's easily counterable with something good and make it authentic. Don't lie. Mm-hmm. If someone needs to, when I say you, I don't mean literally you, Tom. I mean, like, if I'm saying you guys, anyone. If you or anyone need to genuinely go back, maybe you need to go to therapy. Maybe you need to become a better person somehow in order to not fake it until you make it, which I've also done way in the beginning, like I said before, but now I don't. Then do that inner work first. And you might have to grit your teeth through doing some crappy jobs in order to do so, and put up with some low ticket, psychologically abusive clients. You might have to. I've had to do that. Me too. Right when I first started during the Elance era. Hey, there's no shame in it. Everybody starts somewhere. I've had to do that. But during that stage, don't waste that time. Build yourself. Keep your cost of living low. Get someone to write an article about you and submit it to, get an SEO guy to submit it to, I don't know, some online magazine somewhere. Even if it's not a big one, get it published and use that. It may not be Forbes. It could be really anything. People just like to see a third party write about you. Mm-hmm. Have that, put it on your website. Say, hey, we were featured in this online magazine, even if it's not Forbes, even if it's not, entrepreneur.com or whatever may be the case. Something is better than nothing. And that, even if it's not a high level magazine, so long as it's a real one, as long as it's a real online magazine and they're not that difficult to get into, then all of that pre-planning going into the conversation will win the battle before you even start. So if you are an introvert, like I am, if you are super shy, despite what it may seem like, despite what your persona may make it seem like, if you are actually a super introverted person, then the way to win that battle, to have people respect you before they even talk to you, is in that pre-planning, is in shaping what people are able to research about you online, countering anything that may be negative, forming your digital reputation before that call even begins. And then once you're on the call, have questions standing by that after a while you'll remember them by heart, but just for the sake of when you're first starting out, have them written down and before you, have it saved in a Word document, print them out, and use those whenever you get super anxious. All you got to do is just focus on the question. Just if you find yourself getting super anxious, then that means you're paying more attention to yourself and your insecurities than you are the client, and writing down what the hell they're telling you. Mm-hmm. Right. So I use my own anxiety as a kind of sign. When they're discussing to me, when they're telling me about their problem, about their company, where they need help, and I'm writing that down either in digital notepad or on a piece of paper, I forget myself. I forget, like, if I'm really tuned into them, if I'm doing my job, it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. It doesn't matter if you have anxiety. All that matters is that you are focused on them. You lose yourself. And the same way I've kind of lost myself in this very conversation that I'm talking to you, Tom. And then there it is, right? And then you say, and if you really need it, you can actually type, and I've done this as well. You can type out word for word. So like stay off of the video as much as you can if you're an introvert. And I tend to want to stay off of video. And then read what you want to say for an intro and outro to the call in a way that doesn't make it seem like an intro and outro. So if you're super anxious and you're having that problem, then okay, write something scripted to start off with, at least to get until you're able to relax and be more authentic. But be able to speak it as if it were authentic, as if it's not written from a script.
Absolutely.
Rely on it, but limited, and limited in a limited way, always trying to ease up off of it. It's a crutch. Use those crutches. I've used them before, especially during psychologically low periods of depression, because this business gets depressing. Well, as it can when you're in earlier phases.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you start off that you win that first call. If you do those three things, and by three to summarize it, sculpt your online presence, sculpt the hell out of that. Leave no Facebook post no Facebook, no Twitter, nothing. You, with every single post that you make, think, okay, how is a client going to think? Is it, okay, certain clients may hate me for it, but the right clients might love me for it. How, psychographic targeting, take psychographic targeting to every single Facebook post or every single social media, whatever your social media channel may be, into consideration, right? And then, so there's that. So sculpt your online presence, have your list of questions, and if you need to, and it's an optional third, if you need to, have your scripted intro and outro, have pre-planned FAQ questions standing by. Because I have the first, like I have a doctoral, like a doctor would have the clipboard. The first would be the questions. The second page would be FAQ, after being in a certain amount of intro calls that failed or even succeeded, really, just X amount of interview calls, period. What questions did they ask me? What were common questions that they asked me? Build your own personal FAQ. Have those answers ready to go. So if they ask them, you can follow up the answer right then and there. Study those like flashcards. Then the third one would be general notes. It's an empty line, and I can send this to you if you'd like. So those are the three things that I'd recommend. The three major things for winning that intro call. Do those well enough. Grit your teeth through the horrible stages that most people give up on in the beginning. Grit your teeth through there, and you'll find that once you build your reputation to a certain point, you get to my stage where you're getting 4 to 6 job invites per day. You don't even have to send out job proposals anymore. Even though I'm not getting cocky, I should now. I'm going to get back on that just for the sake of the safety. That's safety. Now you want that there. Have a systematic means of establishing and maintaining your authority, and deliver that value. Constantly improve your skills. Always look for the next course. Always look for reading the next article. Stay at the top of your game. What are the new apps coming out? You need don't relax on that. Make it first nature to where and a good way to do this is to follow certain business outlets so that you don't have to try so hard. You don't have to set up Google. You can set up Google Alerts, but you can automate the process of getting new information fed to you that keeps you at the top of the market game just through your social media feed. Just who it is that you're following, what is the new articles they posted. And keep that information in mind, because know that your clients are doing that as well. Your clients do not know their way through the marketing industry. It's hard for your clients to determine who's bullshitting and who's not. So what they'll rely on are those very sources. They'll rely on a vague entrepreneur.com article. They'll rely on the general wisdom of a Forbes article. Even if the wisdom's wrong, even if it's conventional wisdom that doesn't apply to you as an individual, you have to empathize with your target audience, your clients. They don't know the industry as well as you do, or at least they shouldn't. Because if they did, then they would have no need to hire you to begin with.
Absolutely, they could do it themselves. Yeah.
Exactly. They could just do it themselves. So every single client by default is stepping into the unknown with you. Empathize with that, sympathize with that, and think, okay, well, if I was stepping into the unknown with someone, and this is an unknown that could be worth several $1,000s of not just direct cash, but who knows how much damage to my business long term this person could do to my company if he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, just thousands of dollars in damages, or maybe millions of dollars in damages, who knows, depending on the company. And I can't even sue the guy because he might be in a different country. Right? So it's like, this is, when you're doing the digital entrepreneurial thing with marketing strategists or marketers in general, or, and by marketers, I mean, they could be graphic artists, they could be market writer, whatever the job may be, genuinely empathizing with your audience. The reason why you want to follow these publications is not only to stay on top of your game with the new apps that are being published, but it's also for a second dimensional element of empathizing with your clients that highly likely read that article too before they spoke to you, so that they can feel like they have a source, they can feel like they're not stepping into the unknown, and they're going to likely to rely on it to sort of attempt sniffing out bullshit with you. And then when they try to do that, and you can always tell based on the questioning they ask you, they might have questions prepared. A lot of times they do, and you can tell like, oh wait, I read that question too in a Forbes article, blah blah blah, and call them out on it. Call them out. Don't just play along. Call them out on it. And when you do that, you actually end up presenting even more. You present yourself as an even bigger authority, because it's like, I've read everything that you have before you even did.
Yeah,
you are speaking to an expert, right? So it's like, whoa. It really blows them back, and you really, really drives home that you are indeed the expert that they should be speaking to. And a lot of times I have to tell them not to hire me on the spot, because I want to have a second call, because I pre-planned all of that ahead of time.
I've had those situations actually where you just described, where people are asking you some industry specific questions, either from the article or just some buzzwords they're shooting, and the concepts, like trying to test you whether you know this stuff. But like when you actually know that stuff, but you're like even a step above it, then it's just like instantly, okay, yeah, definitely this guy knows what he's doing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is really just preparation, right? It's just taking a step back and prepare how you do your operations. And like, do you have like, as you said, even before the call, right? Is there any way that people can already kind of check something about you, right? Because just circling back to the very beginning of the conversation about like people wanting to hire real humans, there is always that factor, right? They want to know your personality. Like, so plan ahead, like how they can know and get to know you beyond your profile, beyond your portfolio, right? Maybe that's like a quick video that's somewhere online, right? Or you get like some articles published about yourself. And what I have found, some of those questions, what you mentioned, is kind of like what people want to know anyways during the call. So like, if you can take care of that, if they can if you can be sure that maybe at least 50% solve maybe your articles, or maybe your video, your process video, something like that, then they won't even ask those questions during the call. And if you have like an anxiety, or like, you're like a shy person, for example, or introvert, right, who is scared to get on a call and scared that someone will ask you those questions, well, you can do your preparation, right? And the chances are people might not even ask you those questions. Even if they ask, you already have a question. You have not really a script, but you have rehearsed those questions, and what people. I think what I found is, because for me it was like it's very much like yourself. I'm an introvert, right? Like I probably trained myself to be a extrovert, just so I can do business with people, right? But normally, I like to spend time with myself and, not to talk with people too much. However, when I made that switch, and when I realized the doctor analogy that was said, but look, they're actually coming to me, and they want my expertise, so I shouldn't really be talking, right? They should be talking, right? I should ask them. It already makes the whole difference.
Right. I mean, to speak more on the second call, you can expect to speak more on this because you're giving a demo. But even with the demo, once you end the demo, or actually, no, not even when you end the demo, because you should time your breaks and say, hey, do you have any questions so far? You might do, like, say if you have a 12-slide presentation, you do stop for questions in between every other slide or so and say, hey, what do you think so far? Do you have any questions? Anything that I can answer? No, everything seems really clear, sir. Or great job, Mike. No, I understand everything, Mike.
Okay, and just planning for it, right?
Thing. Yeah. And another thing that I wanted to add about the importance of the second call. The importance of the second call in my style. You might hear something different from someone else who is also a successful marketing strategist. My style allows me, even despite my weaknesses, to scale to a genuine $1 million level. As far as revenue is concerned, it's not $1 million in profit, but it is millions about the $1 million mark in revenue. By establishing that that's what I do, that's the face value of what I do. The value that I'm bringing to the table is the reporting, while other people do the work, or at least the busy work, should I say. I do the brain work, what they're really paying for, and then somebody else might do like I create the recipe, and then maybe a smaller fry cook might execute it for me, and then I devote all that time and effort to doing something else intellectual that boosts the value of whatever the contract may be, or the revenue that the income that the company's making, and not my company, their company. When you have that role, and this took me a while to figure out because I tried different business models. For me, for my respective individualistic strengths and weaknesses, that second call is actually the key to scaling to the multi-million-dollar level that I'm just now reaching now. And because if during the second call, I'm giving them the demonstration and they willfully accept the demonstration, they accept this is what working with Mike is going to be like. Mm-hmm. Then that allows me to scale they know that, hey, okay, I'm the brain, and I've got apparatuses, I've got limbs that are other freelancers, and this is what you're going to meet for me to say. Like, here are the results that I'm delivering. Here are the problems that I've run into. This is what I need from you, or permissions or new accesses, whatever. Here's what I recommend for the next 2 weeks, or for the next month, or for the next business quarter accordingly. What do you think? Right? Fantastic. Thank you. Bye. See you next time. Whatever may be the case. And with that dynamic established during the second call, that allows me to disconnect digitally from the call, and say, okay, here's the plan. RJ, Artem, who's the guy who connected us? RJ, Artem, I need you guys to do this. Polina, I need you to do that. Okay, is everyone okay? Are all the fry cooks in line, cooking everybody's food? Okay, relax. And next client. You're right. You relax for a second, regain some mental energy while everybody else is working. Next client, right? Rinse and repeat. You're playing the same role for every client. You're not doing the busy work. Rinse and repeat. And if they don't accept your demonstration during that second call, well then, okay, move on. You have your savings, you have your other clients, you have the ability to walk away, right? And you have the ability to walk away, and you're not faking it till you make it. You have the legitimate, genuine ability to walk away unscathed, move right on to the next client, right on to the next call, and then before you know it, you get one good client, the next good client. 3 months later, if you rinse and repeat that process, 3 months later, 6 months later, next thing you know, you're making $600,000 in revenue. And all you're doing now, for me as an introvert, it exhausts the hell out of me because I have to remain on calls all day. I have to be the brain presenting. And I do get the Zoom fatigue. I do have to sit back and tell my kids, hey, give me like an hour or two to just brood for a little while to regain some mental energy in between calls. So the downside is you will get Zoom fatigue with my style. You will absolutely get Zoom fatigue. I try my best to stay off of video as much as possible because that also adds more to my anxiety, my self-consciousness. But even though I fully acknowledge that video is key to establishing trust, so try to get on video as much as you can, but admitting my own weaknesses, being real about them, I know what I should do. but like I kind of failed to get on video as much as I can. Whatever. Ideally, you want to be on video as much as possible, not just audio. Use the second call to establish not only your authority, but the expectation of what it's going to be like working with you moving forward. And keeping that expectation, keeping consistent with that expectation allows you the freedom off the call to direct other people to do the busy work. And as long as other people are doing the busy work, you can actually take time off whenever you want, whenever you need to. You can just rinse and repeat, getting new clients. And you're 3 to 6 months in, you've landed, let's say, 4 clients that are each charging $10,000 per month, right? That's there you go. You're making it. You're a $1 million business, right? And it's really finding that process, which I have just recently. So I'm not gonna exaggerate. I just recently figured this out, right? So it's not. I mean, sure, I could get a Sam Evans course. I could get, some other course. There's always that marketer with the Lamborghini behind them trying to tell you, there's like a Alex Becker, and they're not wrong. It's not that they're wrong. It's not that they're lying to you. It's that that's their style. That's what works for them. This is what works for me, right? And so you have to develop the self-knowledge to figure out, okay, what can you do, and what should you be doing more of? And it's like what you probably want to. If you want to really make the over $500,000 range of revenue, if you want the $10,000 per month clients, the $5,000 minimum per month clients, and that's your normality, that's you. That's just like you get out of bed. You don't even get out of bed that day unless you're making X amount of dollars that day. To get to that point is actually rather systematic once you develop self-awareness of what you can and cannot do, and you deal with the role that you just have to own. And like I can't stand Zoom calls. I like brooding in the dark. Like look at my own garage. Like I can turn the lights off and I've got like blue LEDs. Like I like brooding. I like thinking and reading. I don't actually like talking that much. It may not seem like it right now in this moment. I don't. But that's the price that I pay, the emotional, the psychophysiological price that I pay in order to say, okay, I am the brain. I just need to establish my authority. I need to maintain my authority with the client. And I need to do this for the sake of, okay, I drain my energy now to gain all the freedom to not only get another client, but to take time off later through the art and science of delegation. And that's what my second call is about. Setting that rhythm with the client, which then grants you that freedom to scale.
Yeah. I think it's very important. Having those operations and those steps within the funnel all planned out, because what you're talking about is like a funnel system, right? For people doing marketing, they'll understand what funnel is. For everyone else listening, funnel is just like a process how you generate leads, right? You send your proposals there at the top, then you have chat in the middle, and then you have the first call, and then there's even a second call. And by the second call, you have a verified client that's a cultural fit. They're willing to pay your rates, and they're just going to be a great client to work with. However, all of those steps within a funnel, they need to be planned out, right? And zooming out and understanding what is that you want to build, what kind of business do you want to build for yourself. And I like what you said about that's their style, or like what you explained, that's your style. And everyone listening, I would like to recommend is you don't have to copy whatever Mike is doing, right?
Exactly.
Because you're your own unique self, right? Mm-hmm. Think about what it is that you want to build, and take what Mike is saying, try his strategies, try how it applies to you. Maybe you can adjust something, maybe you can improve something, maybe you can ditch that, right? But really design your own thing that works for you. It's because all of these, I think it's just, you have to find your own style. That's what makes you unique. You just can't, because I think it kind of going against yourself and just copying what others do won't necessarily get you too far, because you might be doing something that doesn't feel right. like you said, you don't do, maybe 90% of the time you don't videos because that's draining your energy. Well, then don't do the videos, right? So just find those little pieces. It's important to maintain that balance and to be able to do this in the long run. You have a system that's optimized and all the screws and cogs that are there, and then but you maintain that inner core, and what's really right for you, right? Because like you can do it for money or for the clients, but essentially, like, if you don't want to burn out, and if you want this to be a marathon, and then you have to put yourself there in the front as well, and think about how you want to run your business, how you want to feel, right? Like, right. Making money is easy, right? Like burning out is also very easy. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. Well, so if you had to start over, like, everything would maybe disappear, like, and what would you do? What would be your plan of attack?
Plan of attack would be, if I can, and people, I know it's like it's becoming pop cultural to disrespect degrees, but I'll tell you this: a lot of the highest clients who've ever invited me to a job, Elon Musk was one of them, by the way. A lot of the top high ticket clients who've ever invited me to a job, they mentioned in the job requirements that they're looking for a degree. So for our industry, at least, if I had to start over from absolute scratch, I would go to college to at least get some sort of an official certification, some kind of academic experience. It doesn't have to be a full-fledged degree, but I would get some kind of verifiable certification. I would get a HubSpot certification, which is free. And then I would take a side job, even if it was something simple, maybe waiting tables. And I would take that money, which wouldn't be a lot, it'd be maybe $50 here or there, and perform my own advertising experiments or my own media outreach experiments with that, really ground zero bootstrapping cash. And that would be the foundation of my portfolio. So that on a call, I can say, no, I haven't worked with so-and-so. No, I haven't, done this. I'm entry level, whatever. Maybe I would say I'm entry level, but I would say I haven't done this. But what I have done, what I have experienced in my own personal experimentation, is that this strategy works in this situation. And I think that it would work best for your business because of reasons X, Y, and Z. What do you think? Fantastic. You know what? It might work. Let's hire you. And then do your best for them. And then add them to your portfolio, and then build your profile and keep that going. That's how I would start over. So in a nutshell, if I had to start over from absolute ground zero, get a real certification of some kind. Forget the YouTube or there's 99% of them. Use them to when you're already, I'd say, midway. Sure, buy. It's not going to kill you to buy one. To see what other marketing strategists are doing, and then using that to sharpen your own skills, or maybe come up with something new, borrow something from their strategy. But starting from absolute ground zero, in a nutshell, get a real certification of some kind, accredited, ideally, in marketing. Get a HubSpot certification. Build your certifications. Become an academic stud of some kind, so that you don't just say. You want a good resume and a good portfolio. A lot of pop cultural people are like, oh yeah, fuck college. No, get them both, because you want to attack people's perceptions from every angle. So get some kind of a real certification, some kind of a real degree. Or if you can't get a degree, then get a certification, something, whatever you can afford, get it and make it real, make it accredited. Get a HubSpot certification or something like it. Lynda.com, something. Be able to show verifiable on a resume that you actually legitimately studied this as a craft. You didn't just take a random course. You didn't take a random Facebook course or something. No, you legitimately studied this. And then figure out a way, even if it's taking a small, menial, degrading job, to raise the bootstrapping capital. I don't care if it's selling burgers. I don't care. Do what you got to do to get the initial startup capital to invest in some sort of an experimentation, some sort of an experiment or series of experiments that you perform online with that extra cash that you own. You are the source of that information, transforming you into the thought leader that you can then say to the respective client on the call, with my experiments, my research, as this expert in my field, with this accreditation, this is what I have discovered about this respective market, about what works about this strategy and what doesn't work about this strategy, and why you should be doing it, and this is why you should hire.
Yeah, certifications. I'll tell you what. Like honestly, like for myself, I've always been against any sort of certifications, but only recently I was thinking, like, you know, when I see like other UI UX designers, I see like they have like they have like this certification or that certification. I was like, man, like there is something that makes me think that they kind of know something more than I do, you know? And
they don't.
It's maybe they don't, maybe they do, but it's just the fact that they have this kind of like I know there's something wired in our brains that when you see like any sort of certification, it almost like, you know, it checks one of the objections. All right, so even though this guy might not be like, even though he doesn't have enough expertise, right? But look, he has a certification, right? And it's so easy to get these certifications. So I can definitely now see how someone starting out, just, you know, getting a quick certification could potentially help them just kickstart, you know? Because definitely if
the psychology of the client.
It is, right? Because if you don't have a portfolio piece or expertise, well, you have a certificate, right? So you have to play with something, right? You have to be something on your hands. Otherwise, you just well, you can't take those old jobs and just build it up like that. But having one of those two things, well, it's, you know, obviously portfolio is harder than certification, because the certification, yeah, you know, few weeks, few months, you have a certification, bam, and then you can start doing things.
You want both. I mean, at the end of the day, I do believe that the portfolio matters more than the certification. But if I were to start at ground zero, right, answering the question,
yeah,
if I were to start at ground zero, and I wanted to have that authoritative effect on a client, if I have bills to pay, well, I need to build up my presence, and I need to get in the door with, you know, maybe a $15 per hour job, $20 per hour job with, you know, maybe the boring company or some other, maybe a Fortune 500 company that's their hiring process, that's their HR process. We want to see your degree, or certification, or whatever may be the case. Just do it. Is this me saying that degrees equal intelligence? Absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
You can have a doctorate and be an absolute moron. And I think a lot of people know that. I'm talking about strategically planning how you present yourself, establishing the authority in your the consumer psychology. That's all.
Absolutely.
I am not saying that someone with a certification is more capable. I'm not saying that someone with, you know, more intelligent. Whatever. I'm not saying that they know more. The vast majority of what we can learn on YouTube now for free. Maybe not everything, but the vast majority of it. No, it's just simply about, if you come down to the hiring part, you come down to the wire, and your timing is right between a corporate client that even if they don't pay you much, even if it's only a $15 per hour job, the fact that once you leave that job, you can say, hey, I worked for Elon Musk, or hey, I worked for so-and-so. You can name drop. You get, you know, or, you know, this person sent me a job invite, or that, even if, you know, it doesn't work out well, the fact that you can say that and be telling the truth, because they considered you, because you had a certification, and the end output, it affects everything. Even if people, even in pop culture, they try to pretend like it doesn't, it still does. Now, gender studies degrees and all that stuff, okay, that's a different conversation. But when it comes to marketing, when it comes to STEM degrees and things like this, it does make a difference with the specific sort of clients that you could get in the door with to start building that portfolio and the name dropping psychological ability that you could use to, you know, thinking 3 steps ahead. Right. So that's what I would do.
Yeah,
that's
for
what
sure.
I did do.
Yeah, there's definitely there are some industries where certifications that don't make sense, but then there are some industries where certification makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you're new and you don't have a portfolio piece to show, you can please say, "Hey, look, I'm just starting out.
Right.
I don't have much to show, but I do have. I just finished this. Like, give me a chance." And obviously,
Yeah.
that alone can just help you kickstart things
Yeah.
easier.
Because if you didn't have it and you just took it, so what you say, if you're just entry level, you don't have much portfolio starting out, and you're trying to gain the money to build that portfolio with your own experimentation, like I was recommending. If you're at that level, that ground zero level, and you don't have that, well then what are you going to tell me if I'm your interviewer? What are you going to tell me? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At least with the certification, you can tell me. I can say, okay, you at least went through a process.
Yeah.
A third-party verifiable process. I can go not take you at face value. I can take them at face value, and they tell me that you know how to use Photoshop. All right, you know what? I will give you a $10 per hour job. I will give you a shot, and maybe because another thing is there's the other side of the coin too. I'll hire people with certifications with this experience in mind, not because of what they have done so far, but because of what they could become if I trained them. How I can sculpt people, how I can mold them in my team and create a hardcore, how my culture would influence them while they're at that sculptable entry-level phase. And that's thinking outside of the box pertaining to like I know that, I said earlier in the call, I know that certifications don't really mean much in the objective reality, but I mean, if I see someone who's entry level and they can verify to me that they at least went through a third-party verifiable process that dictates to me, that verifies to me that they do know how to use Photoshop or they do know how to use this, and they're fresh like that, I will actually deliberately hire them. I'll go out of my way to hire them, not because of the certification. The certification caught my eye, but I'm not hiring them because of the certification. I'm hiring them because they're new. I'm hiring them because they're moldable, and I'm thinking, okay, if I hire you now at $10 an hour or whatever, and I sculpt you into the person I want you to be for my company 5 years down the road, yeah, I'll pay you $50 per hour or whatever by that time. But it's not even about the money at that point. We know each other. We've been working together for a long time. I know exactly what your strengths and weaknesses are. Fuck your certification. I don't care about your certification, right? But it's like, woo.
I think there is a reason Upwork recently they introduced Credly or whatever it's called, where you can add your third parties certifications, right? So I think company as big as Upwork is, they have clearly done some tests on this, or maybe even users have been asking for this. So it definitely is important thing for people starting out, or even like for experts. If you just want to add that extra layer of credibility on top of your profile, feel free to go for it if that's something you feel like will help you. Not, as we discussed, not necessarily it's gonna make you smarter or better, but as one of the pillars, right, to market yourself and establish authority, it is a valuable asset.
And especially as you get more famous, if you go for the public presence, because you can also build $1 million. Technically, theoretically, I don't need a social media presence, even though it drastically helps for my psychographic targeting, culture fitting. The more of a public presence you have, when you have haters, or if someone who wants to accuse you of being a scam artist or something like that, it's like, well, no, I'm not. I learned my skills from blah, 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 from verifiable from this college, right? And that shuts down a lot before it even begins as well, because if, on the other hand, you're a smart person with a decent portfolio and you learn from YouTube, okay, you might have real skills, but at the same time, if somebody wants to attack you as you build your public presence, they can do severe damage to your reputation, even if even what they're saying is not necessarily the full truth. And it's good to just have something formal to fall back on and say, no, I went through a third-party verifiable process. I really do know what I'm talking about. Eat me. Kiss my ass. you know.
Mm.
So
And it's
that
so
helps you,
easy.
it helps you in a multitude of ways.
It's so easy to get one these days, right? There's just a ton
Yeah,
of
yeah.
places out there, and you know, it don't have to take like 5 years to get a
No,
certification.
no, 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 no. No, but and I mean that. I have a degree, but also the reason why because I probably would not have gotten a degree. I probably would have taken that path. The reason why I got a degree was because the GI Bill, the military said that's our standard. That's just what we want. If you want this monthly stipend, then you're going to get a degree. I say, okay, fine, fuck it. Why not marketing? Right. But if I didn't have the GI Bill, if I wasn't military and that wasn't the process that I had to go through, that wasn't the hoop that I had to jump through, then I would have been fine with maybe $1,000, $2,000 certification. That that's really all you need to verify that, and you can get that in what, 3 months, 6 months. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. Look, I think there's just so much valuable stuff that you can share and have been sharing. We could just go on for hours and
Okay.
hours. This is I think like do you kind of like summarize this? Do you have any anything you would want to share with people to encourage them, to take that, maybe even to start freelancing or to get out of their way and just go to that next level? So I think people get stuck somewhere, like you either been thinking about freelancing or getting an Upwork or whatever, or like something holds you back at a certain level. You can't seem to get to that other level. Is there anything from your own experience that help you to kind of like, to go after that, the next level?
Seek
As a
advice you don't.
it's like as a motivation, bit of a motivation piece for people who need some.
Seek a mentor who will tell you what you don't want to hear.
That's a good one.
I think at every stage it's like working out. You might hit a plateau, and you might have to do something different that feels uncomfortable to break out of that plateau. When you reach the level I've reached, it's taken me about 8 years to reach the level that I've reached, and I've absolutely plateaued for one reason or another. And every single time, one of two things has got me out of it. One is very counterintuitive, is taking a break. Very counterintuitive. If you can afford to take a break, take a break. If you need to. If there's signs you're burnt out and you just need to retool, you need to refocus, recenter, do that as many times as you need. And then when you come back, things might flow a lot easier when you've got some energy back. When your mentality is repaired. There's that. And then the second is get your ass kicked by someone above you. And there is always someone above you. There's always someone who knows more than you. Try not to don't seek the highest level Forbes guys, because the gap is probably too far. Try to find someone who is above you, but not too far above you. They've done more than you, but they're at the next level of plateau. Not so far beyond you that they're out of your reach, but they will answer your email, so to speak. And listen to the advice that you don't want to hear. And that's what will break you out of it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually like what you're saying. Looking at people above you, and obviously that's how we grow. But even like just bringing it back to like Upwork community, right? Like if you see someone who's been having success in Upwork more than you have, like we're all human beings and willing to help each other, right? So like establish those connections.
Yeah.
Right. Reach out to the person and ask them generally, hey, like, can you give me maybe a tip or two? Can I help you with anything?
Be willing to pay for the tip too. A lot of times, money talks. Like some people, they'll say, yeah, "Sure, I can be your mentor." When I first started off, that's something I also forgot. There was a guy that I actually hired a mentor. I needed to gain skill. I needed to gain it quickly, and his name is Stephen Bateman. Old British and French marketing strategist from a different generation, and he was my mentor. He kicked my ass in a lot of ways. Without his advice, I wouldn't have had my Upwork video. and that whole process of the Upwork video, and my initial starting process, I would not have had, as well as the foundational videos the talking head videos that I have at the foundation of my personal brand, the element of it that is marketing. I wouldn't have made any of those if I hadn't talked to him. And those, I paid him $100 an hour, and he kicked my ass like a drill sergeant, very politely, because he's English. So he's like, very politely, yeah, they are. But very delicately, very respectfully, he kicked my ass. And because of him, I made the investment. I paid him $100 an hour, made the investment, gained wisdom that was well beyond the stage that I was at, and the stage that my competition was at the time. And that set me ahead for where I am now. And now I'm a millionaire, and I can move anywhere I want. So.
Yeah, those are very good tips, man. I have personally, even to like a smaller extent, without working with mentors and things like that, I have tried hiring people on Upwork to help me with some of the stuff. For example, project managers, right? Just to figure out how to more effectively manage my projects. I was like, hey, I'm going to pay a project manager to give me a quick consultation on how I can do this stuff. So if you think about it, within our own Upwork community, there are already people who potentially can help you with stuff. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant, Mike. Do you have for anyone listening who want to find out more about what it is that you're doing, your work, follow you on social media, or hire you for any work?
Hopefully you're not easily offended.
Yeah. Where did they find you?
Facebook is where I'm at usually. Facebook and Twitter. Norton's Mind. So it's Facebook/Norton's Mind, NORTONS Mind, MIND, and the same thing for Twitter. Twitter.com/Norton's Mind.
And you have an agency in Upwork as well, right?
That is correct. OmiFirm. OMIFIRM.
All right.
And the website is omifirm.com.
Excellent. All right, Mike. I loved every single minute of this. I just think there is so much valuable stuff that you shared with us, and so much insight. I know that we could just go on and on and on.
Yes, we could.
Yeah.
We have to end it somehow.
Fantastic. Yeah, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your journey and being open about all the things that have worked and haven't worked. So everyone listening, guys, go rewind to some of the topics that we discussed and go and implement it today. Nothing will change if you're not making actions. So I think Mike gave you plenty of action items to do today. So go ahead and do it, implement it, and grow your business. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
See ya.